Alrighty. So, I'm folding laundry. Um, oh. There, let's do live chat. Alrighty. Um, oh look, there's people. So, I feel like I should give a fun little explanation as to why I am currently live streaming while I have class. And that is because, so I was looking at the class syllabus and just looking at the material that I need to do. And I realized that, like, it's the middle of a two-part lecture, and I didn't really understand the first part. And whenever this happens, I just go to class and then I just kind of like zone out because I don't understand what's going on. And I have to go through the material on the online lecture notes anyways. So like, why not like make it more efficient and just go through it once rather than like sitting through a class that I don't really understand, which isn't a great attitude to have. For some people it works. Um, for others, it does not. And yeah. Uh, all right. I think I'm gonna pin this as a comment to the chat, just so people stop asking, um, if this comes up again. But yeah. What's up? Hello. I'm just gonna be folding laundry because that's honestly a better use of my time right now. Um, yeah. Uh, hello. Yeah. So what's up? Hello. Uh, I haven't really made that much YouTube content lately, just because I feel like I've been making a lot of video content in my uh, documentary class. We just finished our documentary last night, finally, thank God. And it was super cool. Really happy with how it turned out, I think. Um, it was really interesting to me to see the whole process of actually making something with having the input of other people. Um, so that has basically taken up the majority of my time in terms of video projects, and you can only sit in front of editing software for so long. Um, is my door locked? Okay. So yeah, I'm I'm here. Um, hmm. So this is kind of just my way to like shout into the void and hopefully get some views from it. Um, but yeah, it's week 9 here at Dartmouth, which means that we are nearing the end of the term. It is almost final season. Finals start at the end of next week, which is really funny because, like, since the quarters go so fast here, we kind of go through midterm season at the same time that a lot of other colleges go through midterm season during, like, with their semester systems. Um, so it's funny that like we line up there, and then now we're going through finals, and people are still like going through midterms at semester schools. Um, yeah. Uh, so yeah, it's been an interesting term so far. Basically, like that's a lie. well, it's been interesting, but it's also like been really rough in a lot of ways. Uh, like one thing I'm going to talk about in a later video is the fact that I got diagnosed with ADHD as in college, basically as an adult, which was kind of a surprise to me. And I think part of it too is like cultural norms in Asian households um, don't really think that learning disabilities are a thing, nor can they really test for it. Um, and like I've that was something that really surprised me in college, that I got diagnosed with ADHD. So it was most apparent to me, especially in my computer science class, where I fell really behind at one point, um, and just like could not read anything off of an online textbook. Like I could not focus at all. But now I'm focusing again, so now it's like damage control. But in short, this term has been really rough in terms of like learning how to manage a learning disability. Um, and yeah, that's interesting. Um, do you think your success in school is due to time management and hard work, or your cleverness? Um, Here's the thing. That does get into complicated territory because, like I said, I have ADHD and didn't know about it until this year. And basically, what I'm going to say to that is, like, I don't think at Dartmouth specifically I am particularly successful in school, just because I like hadn't really realized that this was a problem, or this condition was a problem, until literally this term. So this is my second year, and like um in previous terms I just thought like, oh, I wasn't working hard enough, that's why I don't have like straight A's. Like I had okay, or not even okay, like solid grades, just in the general scheme of things. But this term it really was obvious to me how like ADHD kind of affected my life. Um, so like this term I've done more poorly than previous terms, so I don't consider myself successful in that respect. Um, where I'm not even doing too bad in like two of my other classes. I'm doing really badly in my CS class, but like my other two classes, they're actually pretty solid. They're pretty fine. Um, so again, like uh, basically, in short, I didn't realize that ADHD was a problem. I always thought that there was something that I was doing wrong, and I was just not trying hard enough. Um, but now I kind of have something to point to and know what's going on there. Um, as for like intellect slash ability and how that relates to academic success, I think like for me, I realized also that I understand things a lot faster than a lot of people, but when it comes to studying, it does not. Um, when it comes to studying, I have not been able to study as much as other people until honestly this term, or these past 4 weeks or so. Um, so I think like I've been thinking a lot about like what my academic results would be had at, or if I'm at my full potential, like fully being able to concentrate with my medication, in addition to um, like natural ability, and that's something I have yet to figure out yet. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't consider myself academically successful in high school. Um, like since I am at Dartmouth, I think it's pretty like implied that I did get good grades in high school, and that for the most part I believe was due to ability. Like in high school, you kind of coast a lot, and you can survive off of studying for a test the night before because you're not covering that much material. And like the educational process in uh, oh, is my internet bad? Am I still connected? I'm still connected, aren't I? Guess we're gonna figure that out. Oh, okay. So it's just really slow. Um, like my school's Wi-Fi is kind of spotty sometimes, which is really annoying. What was I talking about? In high school, I don't think I had to really put in that much work because I could study things the night before with copious amounts of coffee and kind of rely on me to like understand things uh, by morning time. So it was very unhealthy. Um, I also wouldn't consider it hard work. It was more like survival rather than thriving. And yeah, that's something that I've struggled with a bit in college. Um, what's next? Do you need medication for your ADHD? Yes, I am on medication. It's been working pretty solidly. Still figuring out dosages and stuff. Um, I'll make a video on like getting diagnosed with a learning disability in college because I feel like it's something that people don't really consider. Because like I think in especially since I do come from an Asian household, learning disabilities weren't really a thing. It's that you're not working hard enough. And over time, I realized, especially in college, when I couldn't pull all-nighters all the time or stay up until 3 every night, that it's not normal to do that. So that was like how I kind of figured that out when I decided like I'm going to start sleeping at regular hours and doing all my work before midnight, and then I realized I could not physically focus enough to do my homework before midnight, um, or to finish my homework before midnight. So that was interesting, and that's how I decided to start going through the testing process. My school, like, fortunately, has free services for getting diagnosed with ADHD. They put you through like screeners and stuff at other colleges, and also I think in the world at large. You have to pay like $2,000, which I believe is partially covered by insurance. I'm not sure, but it's really pricey, and I'm glad that I was able to do it for pretty much no cost here. Um, yeah, uh, so there's that. Um, like, it was basically just a lot of trial and error and figuring out like maybe there's a reason why none of my potential solutions to doing better in school were working, or why I could never stick to them, and that was because I had major attention issues. Um, yeah. Uh, let's see. What were the other questions? Drugs equals school survival? No, don't do drugs. Don't do study drugs because they do fuck up your brain. Um, unless you actually need them and take the appropriate dosage, which most people who do things like Adderall or Ritalin don't. They like take copious amounts of it and think like, oh, I can finish all of my work in a night, which you can, but it also has long-term neurological effects on your brain. So while other people are taking that drug to actually come back to a normal level, you're doing it as like a performance enhancing thing, and that has really bad long-term effects. So don't do that. Um, let's see. But caffeine, very helpful. How are you coping with the additional stress of damage control? I started antidepressants and am more productive now, but I'm overwhelmed by the catch-up work. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm really just trying my best at this point, and like, it is additional stress, which sucks, but I've kind of just learned to accept it and realize that like next term I can start fresh, and now all I can do is like what's in my control right now is to do well on my finals, which I think is possible, but has taken a lot more commitment to studying than I wish it did. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it's whatever. Yeah, like that's how I'm dealing with the stress, but that's kind of a non-answer. Um, like, congrats on being able to treat your depression, though. Like, I feel that. But also, pay attention to side effects, because there was one point where I was on antidepressants for anxiety. Fun fact, it does treat multiple mental illnesses, and it just made me feel numb all the time. But it did stop anxiety attacks, but I went off of it, and like, I've been able to manage it more without the medication, so that's been good too. Yeah. What else? How'd you figure out you had ADHD? I answered that earlier in the stream. Basically, like, I realized that you're not supposed to stay up until 3 a.m. every night doing homework, and that's not regular for a person. And like, during my CS class, I could not focus at all, or like I couldn't study at all in my CS class because our textbook was all online, all the material was online, and like I could not survive that. And I got tested and figured that I went through college counseling services, and then yeah, counseling services, and they kind of like referred me to places. It's a lot of shuffling. Um, all right. Do you regret going to Dartmouth over the other colleges you were accepted? Absolutely not. Like there are, this term has been a lot of high highs and a lot of low lows, and I've seen a lot more of the negative side of Dartmouth this term, more so than freshman year for sure. Um, but at the end of the day, I realized that like it's starting to balance out because freshman year was basically the best that you could get of Dartmouth. Like you got the best experience from it. Just across the board, like it was so awesome. You got to reap all the benefits without all of the downsides. And now this year, I'm realizing those downsides, but also realizing how like finding my place on this campus and like coping with those downsides is like helping me grow in a different way because the downsides are different from the upsides. At or downsides are different at um, different schools, and I feel like here the stuff I struggle with and don't necessarily like is turning me into a better person. Um, Also, like with the spaces I've ended up in, I would not have joined the outing club at any other school aside from Dartmouth, and now I'm hiking every weekend. That was something that was super cool and like super new to me, and every other place I like uh, was considering at the end of it was in like a big city. So I really, really love the fact that Dartmouth is in a very different location. Like the White Mountain National Forest is now one of my favorite places. Went on so many hikes there this term that I just really, really loved. And that like pushed me into a different realm of existence that I don't think many other colleges would have been able to do, while also pushing me academically to like actually start working and like realizing other issues like my uh, like learning disability and things like that. Um, so basically, in short, no, I don't regret coming to Dartmouth. I think it was worth every penny more than I would have saved going to like college that I got a full scholarship at, because it has changed me in and exposed me to communities in ways that like in ways that are just unachievable anywhere else. And I'm so thankful for that. Um, hmm. What classes do you feel like you need to catch up on, and how does the ADHD affect you? So I've had to catch up a lot in my CS class. That's the only class where I fell seriously behind, and the reason for that was I just couldn't study hard. And CS builds on each other. So like you're going from doing things like return functions to doing that within like defining classes and objects and stuff like that. And it was really hard for me to be in like this period of the curriculum where we were supposed to be learning classes and objects, and I didn't understand return functions fully yet, or like Boolean functions and stuff like that. So that was a bit of a struggle. And once I got caught up and like went through all of those lessons and went on medication and everything like that, I understand those now and know how to utilize them. I'm still not great at debugging, but that comes with practice, so that sucks. In my education class, like I've learned how to study for that. It was a class that kind of catered. It was a class with a learning style. I don't want to say learning style because that's a misnomer, because learning style is like refers to other things. But it was a class structured in a way that didn't exacerbate my ADHD too much from the start, so I didn't have to catch up there. Same thing with my documentary class. Um, it was always like very active and like very jumpy and stuff, and like I didn't really have to, yeah, it was something that I'd been used to pretty much. um, have you ever felt this way or have you ever felt like the way you feel now during your early school years, or did all of these feelings occur at college? Um, Definitely felt the same way since high school, for sure. Like, that's not even a question. Like, I know I had the same issues in high school, I just never acknowledged them because I didn't think they were something to be acknowledged. Um, yeah, one thing that, like, one of the symptoms that they talk about that could indicate ADHD is um, like always running like you're on a motor, like you're going from place to place all the time, and you're like you're constantly jumping from one thing to a next. And that was something that kind of defined my personality and defined my life for a really long time. I never got into I never committed to a few clubs. I was always doing everything at once. um, and that just became a part of my personality because I let it fester for so long. Same thing with what else? What other things? Like, I don't know, like just never wanting to stop talking, always wanting to be just everywhere at the same time, and like just feeling restless when I'm relaxing. Like, now I can sit in my room and sit in my bed and like just chill. Before like my diagnosis, did I was not able to do that for more than like 5 minutes, which like is an issue in itself. But that's solved now, and yeah, uh, feeling better about things. Always felt this way. I remembered I never, like, looking back on my life. I told the counseling services this too, that didn't I didn't remember being able to focus since I was in seventh grade. I think, like, ever since then I had always just somehow been able to survive school, and I didn't know how. And like, it was an issue that had been there for a really long time, and yeah, there's that. When I was younger, I had to take medication to help me focus, and I stopped because I was embarrassed because my teacher asked me in front of everyone, did I take my pills? I hadn't taken them since. Um, I think also, like, or I'll talk about this more. I just need to drink water. All right. So, also I realized times have changed a lot. From like someone my age was in elementary school, where like mental health and like mental disorders are not as stigmatized anymore. Like, I think there's still like a little bit of stigma there, but it's definitely not at the level where it was when I was a kid. So, um, like, that's just poor management on the teacher's part, because it definitely isolates you and like calls you out in some ways. Um, but yeah, I would consider doing that again. Um, like, if you were prescribed medication, that means you probably needed it. So, uh, I'd reconsider that, bro. Like, yeah, might be something to keep in mind. Oh frick! All of my clothes just fell on the floor. Fun. Um, you participate in therapy sessions, and would you recommend them to people who are struggling in general? I am not a counselor. Please do not ask me about, like, you can ask me about my experience or whatever, but definitely don't ask me like what you should do, because that changes by the person. Definitely, like, if you're struggling, go to counseling services. Just, even if you don't feel like um even if you don't feel like you know exactly what you're doing, definitely still go to counseling services, because they can point you in the right direction. Like, mental health and mental issues can be scary and can be hard to navigate, and if you're unsure, definitely still go. And that's something I've like been more apt to do since college started. Um, so as for like therapy sessions, you can like usually counselors will put you in different like or suggest different ways to get treatment. That could be either doing therapy or getting medication or both, or going to support groups and stuff like that. For me, like, I've always been very articulate with my feelings and always knew how I felt, was very in tune with that. So I kind of like already kind of just like put everything down to the bare bones, and didn't really have to go to too many therapy sessions before figuring out like what's wrong with things. And yeah, for a lot of people they work. I personally am not that type. Or I don't even want to say that type because I don't know if that's a thing. Like, just like try out your treatment options, try out what works for you, what you like, what like fits in your life and your lifestyle more, and then reconsider from there. Yeah. So that's my advice there, I guess. Yeah, I definitely want to normalize like learning disabilities in college because I was actually talking to my education prof today, my education one prof. Fun fact, at Dartmouth, a lot of the education department is like kind of educational psychology leaning. But yeah, I was talking to my prof about this today, and she was like, she knew so many people that got diagnosed with learning disabilities in college, and it really opened up the idea to me that like I could have been high achieving for the entirety of my life, but really just dealt with it poorly. And uh, like I want to normalize that more because it's still present in like environments like a university setting, like an elite university setting. Like, yes, I am qualified to go to school at Dartmouth. I got here and I got good grades in high school, but at what cost? And if, like, in high school, what did I sacrifice because of this learning disability in order to get these good grades? And do I necessarily have to sacrifice that for the rest of my life? I don't think so. There's different ways to deal with things, and yeah, I think that's something that like people don't really consider because, like, especially in these environments, I'm like, uh, people are like, oh, how could you have a learning disability? You go to an Ivy League school, like y'all don't know what happened behind closed doors and what I put or what I went through to get here, and like I don't want to necessarily be going through that for the entirety of my life, you know? So yeah, like normalize learning not normalize, like destigmatize learning disabilities. But yeah. So please, do what works for you, do what helps you, and listen to your doctor too. Yeah, I have to go to a meeting in about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna peace out pretty soon. But this was fun. If anyone else has any messages that they want to send out, now would probably be the time while I can still talk. Yeah, it's been a vibe. Um, Final season's about to start, and I really just want to be able to see how I can kill it now. Like, I was telling my education prof today too that like I spent so much time trying to catch up for CS that I never really got to like put in the full effort into her class, and it kind of has reflected in my grades, like in my midterms. Like I'm not doing badly, I'm like scoring at mean and stuff, but that's like with not nearly the amount of studying that I want to uh put into that class, just because like I know I could be doing so much better. And like if I can study for an hour and get a grade that's at median, I feel like if I studied for another hour or two, like what can I do, what's my potential, you know? And I'm so excited to figure that out during midterm season. Yeah, so that's pretty much my story. Thanks for watching. I gotta go to a meeting in 10 minutes, which isn't really across campus. It's like 5 minutes away, but it's whatever. Yeah, peace out. I don't know how to end this.